The Power of Gratitude, Danny's Transformation. In the quiet town of Willow Grove, there lived a boy named Danny Daydream. Danny had a curious mind and a knack for spotting problems. If the weather was sunny, he'd complain it was too bright. If it rained, he'd grumble about the mud. Danny's favorite phrase was, "This is the worst." And he said it so often, the townspeople started calling him Danny the Worst. Danny lived with his grandmother, Granny May, who was the exact opposite of him. Granny May found something to smile about every day. If it rained, she'd say, "Oh, well, the garden's getting a drink." If the sun shone too brightly, she'd say, "What a perfect day for drying laundry." She even found joy in burnt toast, calling it extra crunchy. One morning, as Danny sat at the breakfast table grumbling about his soggy cereal, Granny May gave him a mysterious look. "Danny, I think you need a gratitude jar," she said. "What's that?" Danny asked, scrunching up his face. "It's a jar where you write down things you're thankful for. Then, whenever you're feeling grumpy, you read them and remember how lucky you are." Danny snorted. "Lucky? What's so lucky about soppy cereal?" Granny May smiled and handed him an empty pickle jar and a stack of paper squares. "Try it for a week," she said. "You might surprise yourself." Danny wasn't thrilled about the gratitude jar, but Granny May was persistent. After breakfast, she told him to write his first note. "Write one thing you're thankful for," she said. Danny rolled his eyes but wrote, "I'm thankful that breakfast is over." Granny May just laughed and put the note in the jar. The next day, Granny May nudged him again. This time, Danny wrote, "I'm thankful school didn't have extra homework." And so it went. Each day, Granny May made sure Danny added a note to the jar, even if it was something small, like "I'm thankful for my comfy bed," or "I'm thankful pickles the cat didn't scratch me today." One afternoon, Danny's class went on a field trip to a farm. It was supposed to be fun, but Danny thought it was the worst. He stepped in cow poop, got chased by a goose, and spilled his lunch in the dirt. When he got home, he slumped in his chair. "This day was horrible," he groaned. Granny May nodded. "Sounds rough, but let's see if there's anything to be thankful for. Go on, think hard." Danny sighed, but he thought about it. Finally, he said, "Well, I guess I'm thankful that Farmer Joe gave me an apple when I dropped my lunch. And I'm thankful that Goose didn't actually bite me." Granny May clapped her hands. "See? Even bad days have good bits." By the end of the week, Danny's gratitude jar was half full. He began to notice little things he'd overlooked before. The way Granny May always made his favorite cookies on Fridays, how the old oak tree in the yard gave perfect shade, and how funny Pickles looked when chasing his tail. One evening, Danny sat by the jar, reading through his notes. He realized how much he actually had to be thankful for, even on his worst days. Slowly, something inside him started to change. Instead of spotting problems, he started spotting little joys. A few weeks later, Danny and Granny May walked to the park. On the way, they passed old Mr. Grumble, the grumpiest man in Willow Grove. He was muttering about how the birds were too loud and the sun was too bright. Danny looked at Granny May, then at Mr. Grumble. He smiled and said, "You know, Mr. Grumble, those birds are singing a really nice song, and the sun's perfect for a walk." Mr. Grumble blinked, surprised. He didn't say anything, but Danny thought he saw the tiniest smile creep onto the old man's face. Over time, Danny's new habit caught on. He told his friends at school about the gratitude jar, and soon, everyone in Willow Grove was writing little notes about things they were thankful for. The bakery owner wrote about her love for early morning baking. The postman wrote out the dogs who wagged their tails instead of barking. Even Mr. Grumble started jotting down a few notes, though his first one was just, "I'm thankful the day is over." Danny was no longer Danny the Worst. The townspeople started calling him Danny the Bright, because he always had something positive to say. And Danny? He was happier than ever. He still had bad days, but now he knew how to find the good in them. One evening, Danny asked Granny May, "Why does writing things down make such a big difference?" Granny May smiled. Because gratitude isn't just about noticing the good stuff, it's about remembering it. When you remember the good, it's easier to handle the not so good. Danny nodded. He looked at his jar, now overflowing with notes, and realized she was right. Gratitude had taught him to see the world in a whole new way, and it was a much brighter place.